Howdy, who all my stock market gamblers? Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. I'm so glad you're here. What do we got going on? Well, the stock market, it came down to the 20-week moving average, and we bounced off that, right? But now we've come up to the 20-day moving average, and that's kind of resistance. We can't get through that, and if we get through that, the 50-day is right above that. So if we can't get through the 20-day or the 50-day, we're going to come back down and make a lower low. So we came down, we bounced, made a lower high, and then we'll probably come back down. Now, it's possible that we do break through that 50-day moving average. Now, we break through it and stay up above it, not just pop your head up there for a day, but actually hold that level and stay above it. Well, they might run this up to a new record high again. It's possible. I don't think that's going to happen, but it is possible. But I think the resistance is going to be at that 50-day, and it's going to be coming back down. We'll see how this all plays out, but that's my take. I know the Moon Boys have a different take, and that's all right. It takes two sides to make a market. All right, now over on the real estate side of things, it's kind of interesting. Freddie Mac, they came out and they revised their estimates for what houses are going to do. See, they said houses were going to go up in 2024, said they're going to continue up into 2025. But now they've come out and revised those estimates, right? They say houses are not going to go up, and I believe that. I don't think houses are going to go up in 2024. Don't think they're going to go up in 2025. Matter of fact, I think they're going to come down, and we're going to talk a little bit about why I think they're going to come down by quite a bit. I think they're going to drop by 40%, revert back to the mean, and it might just shoot through the mean and continue lower. Now, the reason they say that house prices are not going to rise in 2024 and 2025 is not because there's not demand, plenty of demand from the millennials, right? But they say it's because of the higher rates. You see, they were expecting the Fed to already be cutting rates, but the Fed can't cut rates because inflation's running so hot. So the rates are going to stay higher for longer, and that's going to keep the house prices from going up. Now, will it make them come down? I say it will. Now, I say it will because eventually this whole house of cards is going to come tumbling down. It's a bubble, right? We're in a bubble in the stock market, in a bubble in the housing market. All bubbles break throughout the course of history. But Mike, this time it's different. This bubble's never going to break. I'll see you on the moon. The Moon Boys think we are actually going to the moon. Think that that's where Lennar and Toll Brothers will be building their next homes for sale. And maybe the Moon Boys are right, but I don't think so. I don't think so. But then again, they have a point. You know, Freddie Mac, they're the big mortgage company. I mean, they bailed out in 2008, multi-billion-dollar bailout. And we're going to talk about some of those bailouts that happened, but we're going to talk about how this unaffordability thing is a big problem. Now, when I was a kid, when I was young, right? I mean, a millionaire really meant something, right? I mean, I didn't know any millionaires. My family didn't know any millionaires. If you had $1 million, man, you were one of the richest people in the world. You were like the Rockefellers, we would say. You were rich, right? Now, if you have $1 million, you're not even barely middle class anymore, right? I mean, you need to make $1 million a year just to be hanging out in that group because the purchasing power has gone down by so much. In my area, you make $250,000 a year, you cannot qualify to buy the average price home. Now, I live in an expensive area, Bay Area, very expensive, and house prices are very expensive. But the millennials, when they make $250,000, they're bidding against people that make $500,000. Now, I think it was Facebook just came out and said their average person that works for Facebook makes $370,000 a year. Very interesting, right? A lot of Facebook people in my area, a lot of Apple Computer, a lot of Google. My area, very rich area, right? Everybody's making money right now, but it's going to change. The layoffs are coming, and we're going to talk about that. You see, what is going to bring this all down are the things that you do not see. This is a fake economy, no doubt about. We're in a fake economy, and there's things under the surface of this fake economy that's going to bring this house of cards come tumbling down. Now, there's several things we can talk about here. We can talk about the household debt, right? Credit cards record high. Defaults on the credit cards also a record high. Interest rates on the credit cards also a record high. Look, if people wouldn't be borrowing on these credit cards unless they were desperate. Who would borrow the money at 23%? Desperate people borrow money at 23%, but soon this is going to be coming down. See, I would argue that we are in a recession right now, and I think we've been in a recession for the good part of the last year, right? I mean, the only thing that's holding it up is inflation. Look, if people are buying the same amount of stuff, but they have to spend 8-10% more, so that makes it look like we're not in a recession because the GDP numbers keep going up because people are spending more money, but they're not getting more stuff. But I would argue that we've been in a recession already, right? I mean, people are getting crushed by the inflation, right? It's hard to go out and buy gas, buy food, put a roof over your head. I mean, it's really not that easy. But I had a friend, it was kind of a funny comment. He moved out here from Texas, right? So he moved from Texas to the Bay Area, and he's a buddy of mine. He's going, Mike, I've never made so much money in my life. I go, that's great. He goes, no, it's not great. I've never been so broke in my life. I can't afford to live out here. People are crazy out here. But this is going on all over the U.S., all over the world. People cannot afford the prices. Yes, they're making more money. Fast food jobs out here, $20 an hour, but it doesn't buy you anything because the purchasing power is going down and down and down, and that's below the surface. They're going to tell you on the mainstream media. They're going to tell you how great Biden's economy is. They're going to tell you Bidenomics is working. They're going to tell you that he deserves all the credit. I believe he deserves the credit for the recession, soon to be a depression. I'll give him the credit, absolutely. But what they're talking about is not reality. This is a fake economy. It's not going to last. It's not real. Now I want to talk about the real problem that really scares me the most, right? And that, of course, is the banking system. The banks are in huge, huge trouble. Big trouble. Bigger, way bigger than 2008. That's why I think this crash is going to be bigger than 2008. Now, it's going to be different. It's going to be different, right? Okay, now in 2008, the problem was that people could not afford the payments. They stopped making the payments on their houses, and those houses went back to the banks, and the houses got way overvalued because they were in that bubble, and the banks had to take them back, and they took the haircut. Okay, so the banks were losing money on all those foreclosures. So it's very different this time around. This time around, I will agree with you. People are locked in at 2.8%, and they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to sell. They're not going to be the ones that's getting out. Okay, now who's getting hurt? You see, they're the big winners with that 2.8%. Who's getting hurt? The banks. Banks are getting hurt really bad, right? But you see, during the 2008, they were just hurt on a few houses, right? Somewhere between 5 to 8% went into foreclosure, depending on the area, and the banks lost money on those. But in this market, the banks are losing money on every house that's locked in at 2.8%. Why? Because the bank has to pay 6% for money, 5-6% now, right? Okay, just to get money into the bank, but yet they got their money tied up at 2.8%. So they got all these mortgage-backed securities on their books, right? And they've already lost 30% of their value, right? Let's say they had a loan for $1 million at 2.8% that they made. But now that the rates are up at 7%, that loan is no longer worth $1 million. Be lucky to get $700,000 for it, right? Down about 30%. Now, what else is the big problem? Big problem is the commercial end of things. Commercial side of things has already started to crash down, right? Okay, apartments, just apartment multi-levels. I'm not talking about rents. Rents are still relatively expensive. Maybe some areas they've come down about 4 or 5%, but the rents are still relatively high, right? And people are starting to not be able to afford the rent. Have a friend, his son just moved out of the house, right? Mountain View, California. I go, well, what's he doing? Well, he's renting a 1-bedroom in Mountain View, California. I go, oh, wow, how much is he paying us? Thinking around $2,000, but it's actually $2,800 a month. Does not include his utilities. I mean, so this is 50% of the job that he has. 50% of his income is going to his rent. And then he's got to pay taxes and stuff. He's got to buy food, got to put gas in his car to get back and forth to work. You know what he's done? He's taken a second job. Works a full-time job, has now taken a second job so he can afford to live in a one-bedroom apartment. If he were smart, he'd move back home with his dad. But then again, he's getting to that age, 30 years old. It's time to get out of the house. I got out of the house at 18. It's a little different world now. People don't understand. The world has changed. But back to the banking system. Okay, so these apartments, right? Multifamily apartments. Okay, so the value of these apartments have come way down, dropped about 30%. So let's say you had a 100-unit apartment complex, and let's say it's selling for, I don't know, $30 million. Well, it's no longer selling for $30 million. It's only worth $20 million. But they have a loan on it for $25 million. What do? Do they restate the loan? The bank won't let them restate the loan. Rolls over every 3 years, right? So they give the keys back to the bank. The bank now has the problem. They go, oh no, we don't want the apartment. So they put it on the fire sale. They put it on at $18 million and they take that haircut. The banks are taking haircuts on apartment buildings. What else are they taking haircuts on? Office buildings down about 40%. They're getting the keys back on office building, taking the haircut. What else? What about shopping malls? 1 out of every 3 businesses in the shopping mall is not paying their rent. They're not giving enough money for the landlord. Landlord tries to finance the mall, can't do it. What happens? Gives the keys back to the bank. Banks now own shopping centers. They own office buildings. They own apartment complexes. They don't want these. There's a fire sale coming. I'm telling you, the fire sale's coming. Commercial real estate is crashing and burning. It is bad out there. It's bad. I'm telling you, banks are losing a lot of money. They're losing a lot more money now because they're losing on each house. They're losing on each apartment building. They're losing on the shopping mall, losing on the apartments. And now you get the mainstream media telling you the banks are fine. The banks are not fine. What happened? Silicon Valley Bank went out. Why'd they go out of business? Because the Fed went from 0% up here to 5.5%, and then 5 of the top 50 banks went out, right? So the Fed could no longer raise rates, right? They were raising rates to fight inflation. They could no longer do it because the banking system was all going to fall over like a house of cards, and still going to fall over. The banks are worse now than they were back then. Just a year ago, the banks are in much worse shape today than they were when Silicon Valley Bank went under. But the Fed had to stop raising rates because they could no longer raise rates because the banking system would all come crashing down. Now, I get that, right? But it's worse than that. It's way worse than that. Okay, so the Fed's trying to keep rates up here because inflation is headed this way, right? Inflation is going to come and it's going to destroy everything. It's going to bring it down. Why can't the Fed fight inflation? Because they can't raise rates anymore because the banking system will go down. What else will go down? The United States government would go down. Look it, the United States government right now pays over $1 trillion with a T, just in interest, right? Okay, let's say we bring in $4 trillion, 25% of it just goes to interest. By the end of next year, 2025, that's going to be over $2 trillion, meaning 50% of every tax dollar they pull in is going to go to the interest payment. Okay, is that sustainable? I say no, but let's go out 5 years. 5 years, 100% of every tax dollar that comes in is going to be going to the interest payments, right? No money for Social Security, no money for Medicare, no money for the military, no money for anything. The government's basically broke. What are they going to do? They're going to print all the money into oblivion. They're going to have to be printing 10 trillion a year at that point. This is not sustainable. We do not have 5 years left. We will be lucky to have 3 years. Could it end next month? Yes, it could end next month. Is this scary? Yes, it's scary. What am I doing? I'm stacking gold, stacking silver, right? That's real money. They're going to do away with this other money called the greenback, called the US dollar. It's going to be completely worthless. Yes, the stock market may go up. When you convert it back to the cash will be worthless, right? There won't be any amount of cash where you can buy 1 ounce of gold because the cash will be going away. It's going to go away. There's going to be a reset, absolutely. And how that reset's going to play out, nobody knows for sure. My take is it's going to be rolled into a CBDC. Maybe for every $100 bill you have, you get 1 CBDC. I don't know exactly how it's going going to play out, but they're going to have to fight this inflation some other way because they can't do it with raising rates. They can't raise rates to where they should be. Should be up around 10 or 12% to club this inflation number down. If Volcker were here, he's the one with, with the guts to do it. Jay Powell, he got no guts. He's just a puppet for whoever he's working for. And believe me, who he's working for is not Biden. It's much higher than Biden, much higher than even Jerome Powell. We can't talk about it on this channel because then this channel would go away and then I couldn't come on here all the time and talk with you guys. I know I'm preaching to the choir. I'm Tall Mike. Give me the thumbs up today. Why not punch the subscribe button? Get out to everybody. Enjoy the day. Bye-bye now.